welcome to our webinar, Alumni Talks 2023. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Anna, and I'm a senior marketing specialist at the University of Tartu, and today I will be your host. And our series of alumni talks is the new series where our fantastic alumni share their stories of studying at the University of Tartu, and also at the same time give a short lecture on the topic they have chosen. Today I have with me Asfand, who is our alumnus of a master's program in bioengineering. Asfand graduated in 2022. He is also a biotechnology enthusiast who believes in hard work, persistence, and positivity in life. And today's topic is going to be titled Landing a Career in Biotechnology Outside Academia. I'm very curious of hearing this talk. Before giving the floor to Asfand, I would like to mention a few technical questions. So first of all, we would appreciate your questions very much. So you can see on the bottom the box question and answer, where you can leave your questions during the webinar. And then after the presentation is done, we are going to take these questions and address them at the end. And also we are recording this webinar. So after the webinar is done, basically you're going to receive an email from us with the recording of this webinar. If you have any technical issues, please also let us know. We will try to resolve it as fast as possible. Now, I wish you to enjoy the lecture of Asfand, and I'm giving the floor to you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful introduction. First of all, I welcome everyone on the presentation today. Without further ado, I'll just quickly share my screen first, and then I can talk more about the topic and why I decided to choose this topic, and then we can dig more into it. So I suppose everybody can see my screen now. Yes, all right. So as you can see, the topic that I chose to give to my young guns, freshmen coming up in this field of biotechnology or life sciences in general, is landing a career in biotechnology outside academia. Now, before I go really into the topic, I would first like to lay some emphasis on the importance of this topic and why I chose it. You know, I remember back in my time when I joined my master's, even my classmates, we had no idea that, you know, which fields, what is the future up ahead, what we should be doing. We were just, all of us had one thing in common, and that was that we were all science enthusiasts. We love science. We were very good with biology and science in general. But, you know, if somebody was to ask us that, okay, so what do you want to be? What's your career outcome? What's the one thing you see yourself doing? We were all like bamboozled and we didn't know the answer. And that was always a sign of worrying for everyone. Good thing to know that, you know, all of us figured it out in the end. And then later on, you know, I said myself and asked this to myself, that if somebody was to explain me this difference of academia, industry, and what are the different options when you come in this field, I think that's something that's very cherished, important, and something that's not really often talked about that much, unless the student himself or herself approaches the topic or the issue. So I just wanted to, you know, talk more on that. So as you can see, as for what I'm doing, I'm a fermentation scientist. If you make it more specific, it's gas fermentation. And before I dig into it, why I chose gas fermentation in this huge field of biotechnology and life sciences in general, what was the reason before I lead up to that buildup? I would first like to project into your mind to already keep asking yourself a very basic question. And that is that, so there are two paths in life sciences. One of them is academia and one of them is industry. Very, very basic, but also very important, because if we just ask ourselves that, okay, what is academia, what is industry, that's also fine. I will explain it to you. And for the next path in your life, whether you decide to take up master's here, whatever you're doing in your life, if you decide to carry on in this field of life sciences, I would really recommend everyone to start asking this to yourself, which is the one that you're more suited in. So if we talk about academia, then we can say that in general, this let's say domain of life sciences has a lot of freedom of research. Definition wise, this is where you do the proof of concept problem solvings. The career paths here mostly are, let's say, if you're a master's graduate or even a bachelor's graduate, you can go for doing a PhD. Next, what you follow is a postdoc. And eventually, if you're really interested about publications and being associated with the university side of stuff, like teaching people, giving seminars, training new generation, you can eventually become a group leader and apply for grants. You can apply for funding, and then once you have that funding, based on your expertise, you can set up your own lab. And then you help students write their thesis, you PhD students write their thesis, you give employment to postdocs, and you as a group leader, or a lot of you might know it as PI, principal investigator, you just help build up the new generation and keep contributing to science in form of publications, research publications. That's the academia part. And a lot of people, in a sense, get stuck in this domain that they don't know how to get out of it. They become so comfortable being in academia that, you know, even like getting up in a different way of work is hindering to them, and they just remain in this. And most of the time it's because they don't know what's another way of opportunities for them in this area. A lot of the people, they just think that academia is all you can do once you get into life sciences. You may hear about industrial projects, different scientific companies coming up ahead, but many people don't know how to approach it, how to go about that. So another side of life sciences or biotechnology is industry, where you take on the real world problems, you do real world problem solving. Here you have relatively less freedom. It's more profit oriented, and because it's basically a business based on some scientific concept, you earn relatively higher salaries. Now, I say relatively higher, that's mostly the case for a lot of people in this domain, but there are a lot of people that earn more in academia as well. So that's one thing that one needs to consider, but there are a lot of many different other factors that come into play. It depends on your field, it depends on your research group, it depends on what sort of research is coming up in that domain, a lot of the things. So if I have to just quickly explain to you and give you an overview of it, in academia, you decide your own, let's say, time of routine, time of research, time of work. But in industry, that's not the case. In a sense, you're working a 9 to 5. It can, of course, vary, but that's just to give you an idea. You have a fixed time frame in which you work. You have rigid time deadlines that you have to meet because you want to produce more products. Because the goal in an industry is to get more profit, and you can only get more profit if you're getting more and more products out. And to do that, you need to make new products and get the job done. In academia, you can change your research a bit if you feel like that's not helping you earn your degree. But in industry, you cannot change your research. If you have a goal, you have to achieve it no matter what. So in academia, you can say that the goals are, let's say, degrees, thesis in general, research publications. In industry, it's the profit. So that's one thing that I would really recommend everyone to start thinking of moving forward in your life. And an interesting aspect here is that what if you can bridge the two of them? You know, maybe if you can somehow be in the middle where you also get to experience academia and industry at the same time. I would shed the light on this forward. This is actually happening now. Rather, it's becoming more and more common, where you have research groups in academia that are working with industries. So industries and academia that basically are doing research in the same area. So industry gives their work to those academic partners. The academic partners do their research, give it back to the industry. And that's how you have this academia-industria relationship going on. And that's really popular nowadays, actually. So going back to gas fermentation, my domain, what I'm doing, why did I choose gas fermentation? What was in it for me? Why was it interesting to me? Just to give you an idea of a graduate of this degree, what one is doing. So in general, we all of us know how big of a problem climate change is. The global energy CO2 emissions rose by 6% in 2021. That is like 36.3 billion tons, highest ever, according to the International Energy Agency. And interesting thing is that I have this chart here, and that shows you that the red lines over there actually highlight the area of this green CO2 emissions that can be captured by gas fermentation. So for example, transportation, our day-to-day commute vehicles, and the industrial emissions of greenhouse gases, steel off-mill gases from the steel productions and companies, it roughly constitutes about 50% of the total CO2 emissions. Now, gas fermentation is a field of science that can actually catch all these emissions from transportation and industrial sectors and basically get rid of all this 50% of CO2 emissions today. Now, the big question, right? It's so good. It has such a big potential. What is gas fermentation? So in general, you have, so I have this image that starts from left and goes on to the right. So if you look at to the inputs first, so you have CO2, syngas, industrial waste gases, you can say in general, and you capture all these gases, you process it and give it to a fermentation unit, which if you can see on the screen is this blue part over here, and there is this autotrophic microbe. We can just call them bacteria. These are microorganisms that basically eat these gases and then give you many different products. For example, it gives you fuels that you can use in your cars, you can use in your airplanes. It gives you many commodity fine chemicals, for example, plastic precursors, many different things that you can use to produce many different value-added products. And then you can also use them to produce different feed. You can use it to produce livestock, aquacultures, basically feed for many different living organisms. So adding to the nutritions. Now, if I go back on these microorganisms, you know, the question would be that, wow, these are magical bacteria that can just eat gases and give us all of this thing. So what are these bacteria? So I have this very funny animation here. It's from my lab and was made at the University of Tartu. These are the bacteria that are anaerobic. So meaning that they cannot grow in the presence of oxygen. They only grow in the absence of oxygen. So we have this funny quote, no oxygen, no problem. Oxygen is the problem. And you can see them just dancing and chilling in the media. Next, we have these microbes. Why we're interested in them? It's because they have a thing known as the Woodling-Dahl pathway. Now, this pathway, there are some few, let's say, facts about them. First thought to be the first biochemical pathway, linear CO2 fixing pathway. That's the complicated stuff. You don't need to know this. But another interesting thing is that this technology is already being applied at the larger scale by a US company known as Lanzatech. So here I have a picture of the first commercial scale plant that produces 46,000 million tons of ethanol a year. So yeah, that's a very interesting technology that you can search up if you're interested. Okay, now let's look at the overview of the lab setup. So this slide over here is the lab setup that is available at the University of Tartu at the Institute of Technology. That's the lab group I did my research thesis with. So in the lab, we have very fancy and high-tech equipment. Interestingly, there are only less than 10 labs in the world that are working on gas fermentation. I think it's more than 6 or 7 now, but I chose to say less than 10 because they increased in the recent years. So you have in our lab, we were maintaining strict anaerobic conditions in this huge bubble chamber. Let's say it's called an anaerobic chamber. You can work in it with oxygen-free environment. So there's no oxygen inside, and that is why our bacteria grow inside. On the right side of the slide, we have this fermentation. These are bioreactors. So, these vessels over here, these are bioreactors attached to them. We have gas lines over here. This is GCMS. Basically, it's a very expensive equipment that can tell you the elements in your gas, and that's how we use to quantify it. And because we work with toxic gases, toxic and explosive gases, we have a very strict, let's say, safety measurement protocol there that we follow. We were wearing sensors, gas sensors all the time. We had a very nice exhaust system in the lab that was changing the air of the lab every 5 minutes. So it was like completely safe. So very, very high-tech work being done there. And as you can see, it's quite technical, and attention to detail is very nice. So if you end up deciding to do your master's here, you would have the chance to work with all these equipments and possibly contribute to one of the few gas fermentation laboratories and niche in the world. So let's talk about my career pursuits after graduation, what I've been doing, what I'm doing currently, and how this master's degree has helped me achieve my goals, has helped me achieve where I am and what I wanted to do. So immediately after my graduation, I graduated in the June of 2022. And immediately after my graduation, I was able to secure an internship at a gas fermentation company in Denmark. And this was, again, my supervisor at gas fermentation at the Institute of Technology helped me secure the position. He recommended me, and the company over there did, let's say, took sort of like a interview presentation, and they liked my skills. It was exactly what they needed. And so I was able to do an Erasmus graduate traineeship at the company known as Second Circle as a fermentation scientist. So you can see here we have the bioreactors from them, different lab, different bioreactor setups, but this company is a let's say a gas fermentation startup company. So everything was new. I helped them with their technology. I helped them go up, and that was the premises. And I got to learn a lot. So from academia, I moved to industry immediately after my graduation, and that is where I was able to reconcile it to myself, the difference between academic environment versus industrial environments. There was, as I mentioned, not too much freedom to do research. You had deadlines, which you had to meet quite often. You had a very specified and defined way of doing things. In academia, in my university, at University of Tartu, I had a lot of freedom. If there was something I was curious about, I could just do it. But in industry, you have like certain goals and you have to meet it. Because at the end of the day, it's a business and you have to contribute to that. But you get to learn a lot because you're working at this, let's say, very, very huge machines and reactors, and you just learn that that science is very huge and broad, and a lot of people actually are unaware of it. Okay, so that was my internship, and now very soon I will be starting a new position as a fermentation scientist officer, Idea Bio, which is in University of Queensland in Australia. And these are just some images of the machinery and equipments they have. There's actually a lot more, but I couldn't show it because it's confidential and I can't share all those stuff. So this was just the general stuff I was able to find on the internet, and I decided that it's nice that if I share it with all of you. And this is the example that I was talking about. So there at the, when I started there as a fermentation scientist officer, or let's say a fermentation scientist, these people are actually working with so many different life sciences companies. You name it, it's Sotis, Amiris, Lanzec, Servitas, Dow AgroSciences. I mean, the list goes on and on. So they're working with these industrial people and then also with academic partners. So a lot of universities, so basically what they have is like a cell design studio, which meaning it's, so for example, if you have a music studio, right, where you have everything available, where you want to make music, where you want to edit it, crop it, maybe add a new beat, maybe add new voiceover, maybe add new notes, right? You have a complete editable society or environment where you can do. They have the same concept in biology, in biotechnology. So have this cell design studio where they get work from these industrial partners and they do their work and give it back to them. And then this is how you understand that, okay, what these industrial people are doing, what are their business models, what they want to do, what they want to achieve, how long it takes them to do that. And then at the same time, they also work with the university because they're located inside a university, right? That's what it is to begin with. And then they also work with them. And then you are also able to publish different scientific research papers while working with industry and academic partners. And it's becoming more and more common and more normal. So let's say from the industry, I decided to jump into something like this because I felt that if I'm in a situation where I want to learn more, this is the best place to be at a place where you are working with industry and at the same time also with academics. So your learning is very, I would say, skyrocketed in that sense. And there's a lot more to take away with. You also, another very important point I would like to raise here is networking. You get to build a lot of networks because mostly in science, because of course it's not as huge as IT, where you have a very big corporate sector or environment where there's a lot of influx of employees and productivity, salaries, big companies. Life sciences is relatively has a smaller scale, so networking becomes even more important. So if you're in an environment where you get to be in a place where you're working with both of them, you build a lot of networks. And you know, in a span of, let's say, less than 9 months since my graduation, I've built a lot of networks just because I was able to, you know, hop back and forth from academia, industry, and these different projects. It also, of course, depends on the place and the lab you decide to do your thesis at. But mostly, I think all the projects, all the opportunities that you have at the University of Tartu are remarkable. Okay, the $1 million question, why Estonia? That's something that all of us often ask us. We students would just sit down and ask it to each of us and all my classmates and everyone. It was a very interesting question all the time. Why Estonia, right? And interestingly, the answer we all always got to was different. Maybe for some people it was some family members being here. For some people it was just a place where it resonated more. For some it was also a place where they thought that there's a lot of scientific exposure. So for example, just to share some facts with you, over half of the scientific publications in Estonia are from the University of Tartu. That's a very big fact for me personally. If there's an institute in a country that's contributing to 50% of the scientific publications, as a STEM student, I would want to be there any time of the day if I am coming to Estonia. Another interesting thing is that 50 people in the top 1% of the world's most cited scientists are actually at the work at the University of Tartu, have been associated with the University of Tartu, meaning that you get to learn with the leaders in their area of sciences. So whether it's cancer research, nanotechnology, drug discovery, or whatever, you get to learn with the top people of that field. And that to me is it's the best that one can choose. Another important thing is the flexibility of the bioengineering master's program. Now, I cannot lay how important this is. So this master's program, you will maybe, if you're interested, will have other seminars ahead where you will be talking about all of this about this master's program, but I would really recommend, if anybody is interested, that you should check this bioengineering master's program's curriculum, the courses that are offered. Because of this master's program, I was able to align all my studies as I wanted to. If I want to do my thesis, let's say in IT or programming or coding, I was allowed to do it. If I wanted to take entrepreneurship courses, if I wanted to take language courses, I was allowed to do everything. So I think that's one of the main reasons for me as well why I joined them. When I look at the courses, I was like, I can do whatever I want. So I had the autonomy to study what I wanted. And the same thing that, you know, I'm playing on right now is that this master's program acted as a bridge between academia and industry, not just for myself, but it gives you the option, and then it's up to you what you want to do, what you want to choose, and how you want to go about it. So that I think is something super, super important. So if you have to give it like points for system and decide if this is something you should go in or go not, I think it's the best decision you can make at your master's level, because it will open up doors to so many opportunities that you cannot even imagine. That was the case for me, at least. Okay, one thing that I would really like to share with all of you is that how the University of Tartu won our hearts. So very small story I like to share because I feel like it's very important and speaks volume about the mindset at the University of Tartu, about the people here in Estonia. So back in 2020, when I came to Estonia to study, it was peak COVID time, and in general, in the fall of 2020. The Tallinn and Taltech University declined and deferred the admissions to the next year for the students that had already secured the admissions. Now, it was a very sad thing, of course. It was not in favor of everyone, but it had to happen because there was peak COVID going on, and the government unfortunately had to do something to stop it, right? And nobody can blame them on this. And it was very unfortunate. I know that a lot of my friends and a lot of the people that were going to Tallinn to study different areas of STEM or in general wanted to pursue their education in Tallinn. They were very sad because a lot of people leave their jobs at times. A lot of people, you know, go away from their path in life to pursue this dream of studying abroad. So it's very hard. It was hard for all of them. And of course, it was also hard for the people in Tallinn because it was not something that people wanted to do favorably. And I remember that at the time, Tallinn and Taltech University, when they declined the admissions in Tallinn, University of Tartu, everybody was sure that, you know, University of Tartu is also going to decline the admissions, or it's going to defer the admissions to the next year, even if you have secured scholarships or not, or whatever is the case. Interestingly, that did not happen. What was very interesting is that the University of Tartu supported the students and even picked us from the airports. So what happened was that the University of Tartu allowed the admissions for the international students, and we were given a very huge, I would say, list of rules, of course, because the government was also involved in this. And we had to take 2 COVID tests, one on arrival and then one after 14 days. And it was a very tough time, but it was peak COVID. And, you know, it was very interesting, and it certainly won our hearts for all of the people coming at the University of Tartu, because none of our dreams were shattered. Even during the pandemic, we got to travel to Estonia, and that was like the best thing we could have asked for. And cherry on top was that when we arrived at the airport, so the system was very good, that we were being communicated, the students of each department, by the management, university's management, when we are arriving, what's the time of our flights and everything. And then they were sending buses to the airport. And then we just arrive at the airport and we sit in the bus, and the bus comes all the way from Tallinn to Tartu. Because in Estonia, when you come, the main airport here and in Estonia is at Tallinn. That's where the international flights take in. So we had to stop there, and then the buses come and then come and take us and dropped us right next to our dormitories, apartments, and shared accommodations. So that was beautiful. Even to this day, when we all talk about it, it's something that we all very look back at in a very interesting and nostalgic manner. So that's 10 points to University of Tartu for it. It was brilliant. Okay, the bioengineering master's program. I just wanted to add a slide here, just to show you who the program director is. If you want to search more and everything. So Ilona Fastrova is the program director for our bioengineering master's program. Some facts about her. So she's a very nice, humble, and down-to-earth, I would say, mentor, program director. She's also a model. She's also a researcher. She's also a program director. She's a multi-talented person. And a lot of the things that we were doing during our master's, she was heavily involved with us. She knew every student. Like, she has her bachelor's students, you have the master's students, then she's also a researcher, and yet she somehow manages to remember all of them. That's a very big skill, I think, even on top of being all the things that she's doing. So that's another reason for you to probably join this course, this master's program. It will definitely, let's say, add more flavor to your life here in Estonia. She was also responsible for arranging a lot of activities. So, for example, when you join, you have this crossover event where you meet the bachelor students and the master students, and then you have many different small events coming up. You have like those small escape rooms and everything. So it's wonderful. You can always reach out to her, of course, if you have any questions related to the master's program or anything. But when you join, you'll definitely enjoy her company here for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the flexibility of the master's program in bioengineering. Now, I have already laid stress upon it, but I want to talk about it again here. It's because unless you really open it on the website, when you open it, you will understand what I'm trying to say. So in general, if I have to give you like a tagline to lay emphasis on this, it's that it offers you career opportunities, let's say, in industrial biotechnology in European Union and all over the world. So, for example, in my case, I was able to secure this opportunity in Denmark, and I also had, after my graduation, many different opportunities from different areas. That's in Tallinn. In Australia, you already heard that. You have the Denmark option. But let's say in Scandinavian countries, you also have a lot of this booming time of biotechnology, and they're actively looking for bioengineers or synthetic biologists. And if we even look at the Baltic regions, it's a very attractive job market where companies are just searching for young talent. They need bioengineers and synthetic biologists. You can see that this era might be the boom of this field. And let's say if you decide to pursue this degree right now, in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe you would be among the big leaders of this field. The field is already quite huge, but that's just to give you an idea of what more to come and what more you can expect in the future, of course. So if you ask me what is my opinion on this, what would I recommend it to someone who's going forward in this area and loves science? Of course, I would always recommend you to join it if you love science, of course. If you don't love science, then I guess we shouldn't be talking about it. Okay, let's moving forward. So the master's thesis and my graduation in 2022. So if you talk a bit about my thesis and what I did, so maybe some of you are interested and wants to learn this. So my thesis was on the topic growth and phenotype characterization of laboratory gas fermenting acetogen strains. Of course, the topic is a bit technical, maybe not too relevant for you who are a bit new to this or anything, but in general, it's just characterization of these anaerobic bacteria using by evolution. And it was supervised by Kasper Valgepia. and I was able to defend my thesis with cum laude. Cum laude is extinction here. So you get, it's an extinction in general, in very simple words. And I was able to defend it in June 2020. So just to give you also a bit more on the thesis aspect, if that is something important for you, in the final semester you have your thesis, and that is where you defend it. You have your entire semester just working on the thesis. Of course, you can work on it later more. Again, this goes on to the flexibility of this course, is that so I was in the Institute of Technology, which is the building where you will be studying this course, and you had so many different options within the building where you wanted to do your thesis. In the end, how it happens is that you have a committee, your supervisors and everyone sitting there, and you defend your thesis. My thesis was in collaboration with the US company LanzaTech and the University of Queensland, Australia. So it was a closed thesis, meaning that only the university and people were there, and I could not disclose it because initial information from the company I'm working with to get my thesis done. So that is again an example of working in between academia and the between two. If I talk more on the graduation ceremonies that I had, so I was able enough, or let's say privileged enough, at 3 graduation ceremonies. I remember that when we graduated, we had like a month of graduation ceremonies, parties all the time. It was something effortless, tiring hours that you had put in your thesis and everything. You get to deserve it, and start to develop. We were just busy buying our new planning, not to repeat it or anything. It was such a wonderful time, I would say. So the Fashion Center was, of course, the main building at the University of Tartu, and just to show you an image of it, this is me with my classmates. Yeah, some of them are missing, but most of us are there. This is one graduation ceremony. You have graduates there. You are being handed over the degrees, and it's a wonderful event. I first of all, I had other graduation ceremonies. Okay, I'll just add one. Interesting thing of the University of Tartu on Instagram, they also reach out to you and add your very memorable time when you can look at it. That's one interesting thing. Next, we have the graduation ceremony by our program director only for the bioengineering and science and technology students. This was at the Alatskivi Castle. This is like a huge castle, and it was only for us, for bioengineering and science and technology students. So it was just bachelor's and master's graduates there and working together and just enjoying the day. We had a lot of things going on there. That's again thanks to our program director for arranging it, and it was just a perfect end to it. Lastly, we had one more party, and that was at the UT Botanical Garden, and it was for the cum laude graduates. So this one was only for the students that had passed with distinction. It was not for everyone, but still you can see that there are a lot of people there, and I'm also somewhere in there. Hard to detect. I can also not tell here from this photo, but we had like a lot of parties going on at one time, and it was a lot. But yeah, it is all over, let's say, sums up my master's and graduation talks, and how this time in Estonia has been super memorable. Thanks to this master's degree that helped me develop both professionally and academically. So if I may ask you the question that if you want to study at the University of Tartu, general questions, and if you feel like that you want to know more, I would first of all recommend you to feel free to reach out, write it to your emails, maybe to the program director, to the admission coordinator, the info address of the University of Tartu. You can easily find it from the university's website. If not, you can just look up at the bioengineering course curriculum there. This will emphasize the point of that I was reiterating again and again about the flexibility, the courses that will be offered to you, and in general, if you just want to look at what is an overview of the course. If you want to reach out to me, I decided to leave my Instagram there, also my LinkedIn, if you just want to look at my professional endeavors and everything. So that's one way for you to reach out. But of course, you can also reach out anyone at the university if you want to. Since I've been a peer tutor as well, someone who helps students adapt to their life at the University of Tartu, I can probably help you in these things. So do not hesitate and feel free to reach out. And in the end, you have also the official reach out available, the Facebook, Instagram, and email of the University of Tartu. This little penguin is Kirpu, which is the mascot of the University of Tartu. I just decided to put it there small in the end. And I guess that is it from my side, and hoping to see you at the University of Tartu.
Thank you so much, Asfand, for your wonderful presentation and for managing to combine the research part, the talk about your personal experience studying at the university, and also talking about even social life and Tartu and the university in general, and also mentioning Tiksu, our mascot. Thank you so much for the wonderful talk, and I guess it's time to open our Q&A session. We have quite some questions that arrived to our Q&A box, and we are going to start from the first one. Yes. So the first one, what would you recommend for future students who want to pursue a similar career to yours? Would you do anything different during your studies?
So would I do something different? That's a good question. First of all, I think it also enables everyone to have a aspect of understanding that what I would do differently. So if I have to say, I think the only different aspect I would have asked for is this knowledge of academia and industry. Because let's say if I had to like really dig into it, really spend my time and understand it from experience as well. Let's say if you had asked me the same industry and academia dynamics 6 months down before, I would have maybe hesitated and I wasn't clear. It was not until I experienced it myself that I understood that this is something that you need to focus on from day one. And because of course the teachers and everyone are there, and when you ask them, they then share their experiences with you. And I would say I wouldn't really change much of it, because I was blessed with wonderful teachers. I was blessed with wonderful colleagues and friends. So I wouldn't really do much different. But if I have to recommend for future students who want to maybe pursue a similar career to mine, I would say that grind a lot, work really hard. There was one thing that I was lucky enough to join a lab where I had very nice and big projects, but also there was a criteria to work there as well. We had some, let's say, tests or rulings that we had to follow in the lab, and not every lab has those rules. As you saw, we were working with explosive gases at the University of Tartu in my lab. So we had to make sure that everybody is following those rules. So if you're a disciplined person, you're following rules and everything, teachers will see that and they would gladly help you work up to that. So just be a disciplined and a good scientist, I would say. And always ask if there's a confusion about anything, just ask. Everybody's so helpful there. They are always willing to help you. This is one thing that I cannot emphasize more. Always ask.
Thank you so much, Asfand, for your answer. We are moving to the next question. Could you name some courses that you would recommend?
Yes. So first, if you ask yourself, so for example, in my case, some of my classmates, in our courses, we have some courses that are programming intensive that involves coding also in science. So I was someone who didn't know a lot of coding. I had no coding in programming or anything. So I always took courses that were close to biology. So for example, in your elective module or in your specialty module, you have courses like data sciences, you have courses like introduction to programming, you have courses like nano and micromedicines. The ones I took nano and micromedicine, just to understand how this pharmaceutical side of science works. Then there were biomaterial courses. So it's like a lot of them. I can name them, but I am sure that you won't remember it. So what I would really recommend here is that you open up the webpage of the bioengineering and you just look at the courses that will help you move forward. If you were someone who wants to go more on, let's say, the scientific side away from programming, take more of the scientific courses. If you want to be more on the programming side, you have those options as well. So it's really a matter of how you see yourself in the future.
Thank you very much. We will take next question. Besides gas fermentation, can you tell a bit about other promising industries within biotechnology?
Yes, I can. So you have a lot of so how it works is that when you're setting up an industry, you have a concept, you take it at the large scale, and you do your, let's say, molecular biology, synthetic biology, gene editing stuff in the microorganisms. And in order to mass produce that product, you need to do fermentation. So that's why like fermentation is a very integral part of industrial setups. That is one thing that you might want to get in if you want to see yourself being in industry. But if you talk about other aspects, then synthetic biology is everywhere. Molecular biology, whether it's drug design, whether it's fermentation, whether it's, let's say, some colonizing or, let's say, multivariate association of quorum sensing between the bacteria. So molecular biology is something that this degree will make you an expert in, and then you can take on your interests. If it's pharmaceuticals, if it's nanotechnology, if it's, let's say, chemotherapies, cancer studies, if it's, let's say, electromagnetism, if it's robotics, you have life sciences covering all that aspect. So it's really a matter of what's your interest, and all these examples are there in the industry. If you want to know more specific examples, you can just open my LinkedIn and I can send you some links there about the industries and everything.
Thank you so much. We're moving to the next question. What was your education before master's program? Is it difficult to study for medical diploma student?
Okay, very good question. Yeah. One of the reasons why it was also very easy for me to study it here in master's is because I had a background in biotechnology. So I did my bachelor's in biotechnology, but a lot of my classmates, they were from different backgrounds. One of them was from the field of physics. So he was more of an engineer and he came into this field of science. But you have options to also take bachelor's courses. So you can take that and you can build up your basics around that. So if you're someone from, let's say, medical technologies, you can definitely move into it. Or rather, because this degree is already going to teach you about molecular biology. So once you have a strong understanding of synthetic biology, molecular biology, then you can, it's a matter of building your expertise with your thesis. So I would say that even if it's some other field, it's not difficult. It's within your reach to study it, and probably the right time to do it during your master's.
Thank you very much. The next question is related to your cum laude, to your achievement graduating with cum laude. So was it difficult to graduate with cum laude in this program? What would you recommend for future students, if future students want to do the same?
I didn't get the first part of the question about the cum laude.
Was it difficult to graduate with cum laude in this program?
Okay. Well, I will say it like this, that it wasn't easy. I won't say that it was hard, but I will say that it was not easy, because how the University of Tartu structures the education and is that you have tasks every week. So it's not like how I know, or back how it was in my bachelor's, was that you could get very good grades if you were to study in the last few weeks of your before exams or anything. But here, how it works is that you have tasks like every week, so you do it gradually. So if you're someone who likes to work along the way and not someone who leaves everything at the end, then I would say it won't be hard for you. But if you're someone who likes to do things right at the end, it will be hard to get a cum laude in.
Thank you very much. We have some questions which are related a little bit to admission. So there are questions if there is a scholarship opportunities or the fee structure. So I would recommend to visit our website, to check Bioengineering website, and then there are some limited number of scholarships, so you can read about it more, and then about the fee structure as well. And if you have more questions, that I recommend you, we will have a specifically admission related webinar on the 25th of January. So you're welcome to join and ask our admission office these questions. I think I'm going to take the last question because we are unfortunately running out of time. And let's see. Let's take this question. What is something at the University of Tartu that you absolutely loved being part of?
Okay, that's I would say the hardest one. I would say it's a bit of everything, you know, that adds to your experience. If let's say in the beginning, of course, it was the management at the University of Tartu, like they were always welcoming you with open arms, and that was very encouraging. Because even when you were studying or even when you were at your home away from university, we always knew that the university got our back. There is someone always there for us. And this really adds to your experience and changes your mindset and outlook overall. Then you go at the university, the teachers are very nice. They're very, very nice. You can ask them any question. And then if you have any problem, the program director is very approachable. It's like, every setup is there to help you, lift you up. So I always say to my friends, and we always used to talk that, you know, if you want to fail here or not be a good student, you really need to try to do that. The university will do its best to, you know, keep you in the right track. And that is I think the best part. It just makes you want to be here.
Thank you so much, Asfand, for your tips and for your great talk. We really appreciate you being with us today. Thank you to all of our participants for joining us today and listening to the talk. Before wrapping up the session, I would like also to say that the application period is open right now to the master's program in bioengineering, and you can apply before March 15th. So please apply. If you have any questions, you're very, very welcome to contact us at any point. We are also going to have virtual meetings with program directors who are going to guide you if you have any questions that are related to the program. So we are going to send you the follow-up email with all necessary information about that. But unfortunately, we have to end our webinar. Thank you so much for being with us, and everything the best for you. Hope to see you in Tartu.